Okay, I think we're ready to start. All right, welcome everyone to our October Guild meeting. We're really happy to have Marleta present to us. Marleta Stansberry. She's a wonderful business person, artist. The food here is amazing. She does catering. Today she's going to tell us about her business and tell us as much as she can in the limited amount of time we really have here about her painting. I'm really excited to hear about her artwork. So we're presenting Marleta.
So I'm going first right now. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So I didn't know that. I thought somebody else was talking before me, but yeah, we're good. Okay. All right. About 9 o'clock last night, somebody, a friend of mine, gave me a bit of a challenge, and this is after I'd already written what I was going to do for today. So I decided to take on that challenge. And he said to me, so what's the takeaway from this evening? What are the people that are in the audience, what are they going to be able to take away with them to learn? I don't like to talk about myself very much, but I decided that talking about my life experiences and how that's affected my art and informed my art was kind of the way for me to go. So I'm going to start with this painting right here. And this is actually, the name of it is Unfinished, because it's actually unfinished. This is a technique that I started doing, the drip technique, where you start with a washed, a watered down acrylic, you let it dry, you turn it, do the same thing with different colors, and you build up your background with that. And then within that, you find images. This is unfinished because in the midst of this, my mother died, and I had to go. I was flying back and forth to Oregon to take care of my dad. My mother was my father's caretaker since I was about 15, and all of a sudden she was gone. So I was going back and forth and helping my sister to do all that stuff that you have to do when you're taking care of parents. And all of a sudden I was in that role of a child taking care of a parent, becoming my parent's parent. And I know that so many of us have been in that role before, and it's really hard. So this is unfinished, and it's going to stay unfinished because it represents, for me, it represents a time where there was just so much change and there were a lot of upheaval. But so this is an opportunity showing you the artwork to talk a little bit about all those life experiences that have affected and informed my work and who I am and my work now. So with that, let me tell you a little bit about who I am. So thank you very much for the honor of being able to talk with you today. My name, again, is Marleta Stansberry, and I am a catering chef. I'm a chef instructor, and I am an artist. And I'm the owner of Pacific Underground Catering, where you're sitting. My art over the years, as I know has happened to each of you, has changed, and the media and the goals and the experiences of my life have caused those changes. Is anybody too warm? Everybody's good? Okay. I'm very warm. Okay. So they evolve with all of the experiences and emotions behind the work. They evolve with the ebb and flow of life. And I'd like to share with you what has informed my work, what has moved me to create, and what continues to be that constant push to produce, hopefully to create a spark of renewal for your own journey. All right. So what is my art? Invariably, when people walk in this door, they ask me, what do you do here? Besides the catering part, there's obviously a lot of other things that happen here. So I kind of give them the 30-second elevator answer. And I tell them I do classes here. I do cooking classes here. I have small parties. I do dinner parties. I do wine pairings. I do art openings, obviously. And I do off-site catering, on-site catering. I do small weddings. I do bridal parties. I do all of that stuff, on-site, off-site, wherever site. But there's so much more than that. So there's so much more that has to do with art and an artist's perception of the world and an artist's perception of living within the world that needs connection with other people. Talk about the nourishment of hospitality, art for art's sake, creativity out of the need to do what you're created to do, and the need to add to the world rather than take away from it. So this place is not only about what's done here, but the vision that's behind it. So let me start by saying, isn't it amazing how the experience of living wherever it takes us, our art is an unmistakable reflection of those experiences of that life we have created or has been created for us by those things that kind of happen. I know it's stating the obvious, but now that I'm further along in the journey, I really appreciate that our perspective changes, really appreciate it. I don't know that my younger self understood that truth or could have for that matter. Let me take a few steps back and I'll tell you where I'm from, and this will hopefully help you understand my motivations. I was born and raised in the Willamette Valley of the Pacific Northwest, surrounded by this fertile farmland that was encased by 2 mountain ranges and bordered by the Pacific Ocean with cliffs. It was amazing. The other thing, believe it or not, was the trees. The old growth forests were just incredible for me. And literally 15 of my friends couldn't fit our arms around one of these trees. And it was an incredible experience to go and try to hug a tree. And it took all your friends to do it. It was great. Yeah, it was super cool. So I grew up in a family business. I grew up in the funeral business, which also informed a lot of my artwork and my perspective on the world, as you can imagine. I was brought up by parents who were integrally involved in the community on many levels. It was simply life for me to go to Rotary meetings, to go to Masonic Lodge, play pool at the Masonic Lodge, to have pancake breakfast at the Eastern Star and the Rebecca and the Oddfellows and all that stuff. That's just what we did. But it was a sense of community was foremost in our family. My parents believed in the need to build a family with their staff. Funeral business can be seen as challenging for a lot of people for a variety of reasons. My parents felt it was necessary to bring our staff together for parties and holidays to create a sense of connectedness. So my mother needed a sous chef right here. And I was a marginally willing participant as it pulled me away from Play-Doh and Tinker Toys because I was only 6 years old when this started. But I learned to love it, and I'm still doing it here today. So I was fortunate to have an immigrant mother as well. She came from Panama on her own when she was 15, and she had her own sense of creativity and style that I still glean from today. But I was not to be deterred from my tomboy ways. Any chance I could get, I was out in the yard with my dad, surrounded by nature, the trees. We had a small farm, how it all worked together. Our family spent weeks at a time in the woods of the Northwest. I was at my dad's side, and he could build absolutely anything. He was my hero. I wanted to build anything as well. So he would get really upset with me because all of his tools would end up outside in the rain. And I would leave them out there. He would get very upset with me. So he decided to buy me my own. And that started a whole nother process of creating for me. I began creating pieces of artwork with leaves, woods, rocks, anything I could find to stick together with mud, grass, glue, long pieces of grass. So my supply was endless out there. So nature, beauty, community, and hospitality, and an understanding of the fragility of life from a very young age really informed my work. My parents were both incredibly creative and talented individuals, and they understood that there was a drive in me as well. So time went by. I'm going to get to the art here in just a sec. And I went to school at Whitworth University in Spokane, Washington, a completely different and beautiful environment of high, dry, pine tree-strewn mountains of eastern Washington and western Idaho. It's a beautiful country. There, after changing my major no less than 5 times, I landed on mixed media sculpture and vocal performance. Yeah, vocal performance. Though my current medium is food, I dabbled in glass right here. This is my work. Fibers right here. I started fiber sculpture, clay, wood, metal casting, and fabrication, jewelry making, loom weaving, batik, felting, beading, copper wire sculpture, and I finally rested on freeform weaving and acrylics. That's kind of some of what is over here. Just because I could work within my own time constraints, and I could go back to the work, and especially the weaving. It worked with my life at that time. In the midst of all this, I had moved east from Oregon. I got a job in Erie, Pennsylvania at Gannon University. And I was the director of a leadership house and a coach for the women's soccer program. Then I went to culinary school for the first time. There I learned the science and beauty of the painfully fleeting medium of food. It's maddening for me. I was offered a graduate position at Mercyhurst University, earned my master's in bilingual special education, got married, became a high school special ed teacher, had 3 children, 2 dogs, a house, and a studio, and then I got divorced. I had to learn how to be creative away, and again, that fed my soul. All of this happened all in these years that this unfinished thing happened. These formative years provided me with challenges and opportunities. I traveled in and outside the country. I taught, experienced loss, joy, fear, risk, and love. During these times, I created not always the best work, but work that helped me grow and express. I eventually went back to culinary school when my kids had all made it to middle school and high school, and then went to work in the restaurant industry. After a few years, I was able to combine my teaching and culinary background to work as a chef instructor for a local culinary certification program. This school taught people coming out of the prison system, mental health facilities, off the streets, or group homes. It was a whirlwind, but I could combine my backgrounds in education and culinary to help those individuals develop skills to become successful. It was an incredible experience for me because it renewed my love of teaching. Teaching high school was challenging. I love the kids, but all of the stuff that you deal with when you're a high school teacher, it was a bit crazy. It renewed my love of teaching, and I knew I was making a difference there. To illustrate this point, I had one young man in a class who had come to the program from a psychiatric ward. It was a class of all men. 2 of the men were visually impaired. I had one man coming out of the prison system, and I had another man who was being retrained after he had lost his job. And then I had Andrew. Andrew, he rarely spoke. He watched everybody. And for weeks, he could only respond with yes and no answers. Within about a month, he became more engaged. And actually, oh, sorry. There you go. Did you sign in? All right, there you go. He became more engaged. And actually started interacting with classmates. He developed skills and confidence and was learning to take care of himself as well, taking his medications and coming to school on time and all that stuff. It was all part of it, all part of the program. He was offered a job by the restaurant that he had, where he had his internship. And by the end of the program, on the day of graduation, he stood up, looked us all in the eye, said to myself and all of his classmates that this program had changed his life. That was amazing. That's the power of teaching, the power of food, and the power of sitting around a table to have a meal with people with whom you've made that meal. On a smaller scale, that experience is what I want to create here. And in some ways, I really have. Then a year before COVID, I garnered a job as a catering chef at John Carlo's, and a year nearly to the day was laid off because of COVID. I floundered around for a while until I was given the opportunity to cook daily for the COVID teams at ECMC. I was truly blessed, as this led me towards opening my own place and a dream of combining my love of culinary arts, science, education, and art. So what does this look like now? The artwork. The space, the classes, education, community, and the food. One way is with the amazing work of Paulette Krakowski. Actually, every 7 weeks, I have the honor of hosting a local artist's work with a reception. And Paulette sets this up and maintains a gallery. These walls, this space changes every 7 weeks, and I love it because it gives me motivation to want to do more work, more painting, more whatever it is that I'm supposed to move forward to. And doing painting and creating in a way that lasts a little longer than a chocolate torte or caprese skewer that are over there. For me, the space is art, and it's important. It's really important to developing a sense of comfort, an environment that's filled with beauty, warmth, color, and light, and one that's inviting and hospitable and a place of welcome for people. Cooking classes are another form of reaching out to the community and inviting hospitality. In this space, people of all ages, all abilities, all challenges are invited to come in for 2 hours, they become a little family. Okay, they cook together, they learn together, they laugh, and they eat together around this table. And I'm often reminded of how incredibly fortunate I am to experience these relationships that form, the conversations that happen, the friendships that develop around a meal. A couple of months ago, I had a group in that had won a private class through a fundraising event at St. Luke's Mission downtown. One woman had invited several different people she knew to enjoy an evening of making pasta and celebrating a meal together. Not everyone had met and known one another, but at the end of the evening, they were literally singing songs together around the table and making plans for other group events. It was fantastic and filled me with a sense of hope and gratefulness that I have been given this opportunity to create a space of beauty and art and community. And this is just one example of many times similar scenarios have played themselves out in this space. So the work is unfinished. It's up to each of us as artists to touch people's memories and souls and remember their connectedness to one another. The work is unfinished and the journey is one to be enjoyed and felt, helping people to feel a little more human. So thank you for your time.
So questions? Anybody have questions for her? First piece.
Out of these, that one. I really enjoy working with glass, but I don't have the space to do this size of work anymore, or the equipment. The hope is that I will be able to get back to that, because I enjoy that. This is called thin casting, if no one's aware. It comes off of an architectural technique called dahl-de-verre, where large chunks of glass were put into walls, concrete walls. And this technique came out of that when actually this is epoxy in here, and this epoxy was used on the space shuttles. Okay, so it's a very strong epoxy, obviously, that attaches itself to glass. It was brand new when I was going to school. So I had the space to be able to do it, and I did it. So I did some smaller pieces as well, but that was the first one.
Marleta, the glass pieces up front and the painting that you have on the easel, there's some similar shapes there. Are they related?
Very organic. I really, and I think it's probably because of nature and organic shapes have always been really important to me. They show up a lot in my work, and I would say that connection is there. And this is years of difference in here.
You're painting on a loop?
I may, no, this one is freeform. Yeah, I just kind of made a loom with on what did I use? I think I used masonite, something. So, any other questions?
What's your favorite medium to work with? Say painting wise.
Painting acrylics. I really do enjoy acrylics. As far as everything else, that's hard to say because I've done a lot of different things. I enjoy them all for different reasons. So, but I would say the one I want to go back to right now is glass.
Why is that?
I think the use of light and color, being able to manipulate that, and I think that's just an amazing process of being able to do that. Light is amazing.
It looks like you're telling a story.
I am, actually. It's called baptism. And if it's hard to see it when the light isn't behind it anymore. I did have a light, but it broke actually a couple weeks ago. But you're under the water over here, and you can see the continuation of coming out of the water. Here's a fish here, There's lots of images of sky and rock, and there's a tree and then a rock. And then you're coming up out of the water, you start to see the drips of water on the surface, and then you're up, and then it's sun and another tree and a mountain and a dove. But you have to come back when the sun's up. Yes.
AC online would like to put the food at first, whether that be your artwork.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Food, you know, I kind of mentioned it that food is such a fleeting type of artwork, and it's beautiful, and you can manipulate it so well, and there's so much that you can do with it, and it's amazing to be able to create something beautiful that it not only tastes good but looks beautiful. And I think I bring my sculpture background into my plating, and that's just an important part of what I bring to that. Yeah.
I love that, talking about your food. It then becomes a part of you.
Yes.
Then you take it forward with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I have to say, my husband and I were here last week Friday for a 5-course Italian meal that she had with pairing of wines and stuff like that. The presentation of the food on your platter was just amazing.
Thank you.
The beauty of it.
Thank you.
really.
That's part of the joy for me, is being able to present well.
Yeah, everybody was at the table was, oh wow, look at this. Everybody take pictures.
Thank you. Yes.
Do you have more of those type of things? Like
I
the
do.
online- Are they all online right now, like for the fall and winter?
The next one will be posted by the end of this week. It's November 17th. It's a French cuisine. Yeah.
What kind of event are you talking about?
I started an underground dinner club, and every month I'm having a dinner, either a wine paired dinner or just a dinner where people can come in, but it's reservation only. 35. I've seat 35 in here, but the next one, November 17th, is wine paired French. It's French cuisine.
When are you? It looks like you might need a bigger space eventually. You offer so much.
I've thought about that, but this is a great location. You know, being right on Main Street is amazing. So,
Thought after and make them wait.
yeah.
Oh, look at like Schwabel and things like that.
Yeah.
They're not cute. I mean, not-
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that my specialty is being boutique, and people come to me because I do small events, and I do small events. I pay a lot of attention to what I'm doing, so that has a place for people. So yes.
can you tell me,
That comes from my family business. So the Pacific part, I came from the Pacific Northwest, and the underground part, it was a funeral business, and I dug the graves. Not all the graves, but that was one of my jobs that I did growing up. I started when I was about 15 doing that. So, I'm sorry?
It has a great link.
Yeah, thank you very much. But that's where the underground comes from. A friend of mine helped me to come up with that name because he just thought it was hilarious that I should take grapes. So I actually did. But that's where it comes from. So.
I just have a comment. I thought it was interesting how you said you can trace your art back to different points in your life, different life events. I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
As all artists, I think we should go back and look at the time period and what's affecting our art at that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice comment.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think that I think all those life events that happen, they just change your art because you're a changed person. I think your skills might be the same, but something else is going to come into your work. That's just me.
follow up to that then, because you have so many different mediums that you use. Have you found at certain points in your life, like say after your mom's death, you do more painting or more, like you ever equate that, using the same medium to different life events? Or
I can tell you that I haven't gone back to painting. Not yet. I will. But that and singing. Had a vocal performance degree as well, and I haven't gone back to that, singing and painting. So it's I took it pretty hard. So food. No, I don't have time. I don't have time. I wish I did, and I want to get back into something, but me starting to talk about it is kind of a first step for me. So, yeah.
What's your next big thing?
My next big, is that Janet better by any chance?
No, that's it.
Oh, okay. Okay. My next big thing, actually, with the culinary part of things, and the reason I say Janet is because she came in earlier to look at your show, and we were talking, and given the experience that I had in the past of being a chef instructor and working with people with special needs and people who just needed a second chance, I have wanted to start a school to do specifically that, and where teaching the skill of cooking, not necessarily just for them to be able to go out and get a job, but life skills, and just giving the people the joy of knowing how to do that. And if I did anything bigger, different away from here, that would be the thing. So. Sure. The one on the bottom, I was doing some silk painting and some beading work. A lot of my work, and I don't have a whole lot of it here, but they have trees in them, just because trees, I just love trees. So that is the beading in silk, and then acrylic. And the next one, I used some found objects with that, and that's the same technique actually as this piece right here, as the unfinished piece. Same technique where you paint and then turn and paint and turn and paint and turn, and then finding an image. And then I added pieces of metal, rusted metal on the outsides of that. And then I add the finer details after I'm happy with the shape of it. And then the large one was done after I had traveled to Greece. And that was a monastery that was on a cliff, and it was called Meteora. And it was a monastery in winter. And that was done literally within, I did it in about 2 hours. It's a palette knife. It was from a photo. And then the drawing on the other side was just, it was after Leonardo, one of his studies of the Madonna. And then the weaving is, again, freeform weaving, and it's more like a landscape feel. The bottom of it's meant to kind of be in a space where there's a lot of light coming in, and the ones at the bottom, the beads on the bottom, the light shines through them and it looks like rain. And I think that's all I have over there. But a lot of my work was sold or destroyed. I had a flood in my studio and lost a lot of my work, which was devastating. So this is what I have left. I have some smaller pieces at home, but didn't want to bring those in. So.
You said you want to move forward with more glass eventually. I'm just wondering, have you ever blown glass, or have you worked?
I
Like
want to
chopsticks?
learn how to do that. No, that was a gift from a friend of mine for my birthday. She actually found that at the Marleta general store. Believe it or not. I know. I know. It's autumn. The the name is autumn because it's a tree on the inside. So, yeah, I love that piece. But that blowing glass is something I'd love to do.
Somebody might have asked this already and I didn't hear, but what is it you want to do with glass?
Getting back into doing something like this and kind of seeing where that goes. You know, I'd have to start back and figure it out again.
This has been wonderful. Anybody else have questions? We can mingle some too, and thank you so much for this wonderful,
Absolutely. Yeah.
wonderful food.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay. All right. Thank you.